Without saying much, I start cleaning up. My ex-husband James finally speaks up, surprised that I'm not crying or resisting. He expected me to be emotional when he asked for a divorce. Honestly, I thought he was very self-centered. It's not just him who has fallen out of love. Well, you're the one who will have a tougher time after the divorce, not me, James says. Instead of crying, I almost laugh. What do you mean? James asks, looking confused. He says, you're just a housewife, and I'm a corporate professional. You'll struggle more, and I plan to remarry while you'll be on your own. Normally, that might be true, but I know the woman he's cheating with, Emma, isn't great. How do you know her name? James asks. My name is Kate. I'm 32 and a housewife. I met James at a social event. We were the same age and quickly became close. James worked in a trading company and earned a lot, so I had a comfortable life. But our marriage wasn't great. After 7 years, things have changed. We used to be very loving, spending every meal together, even if James was busy. But now, he comes home late, often after midnight, and we don't talk much. It felt like he was avoiding me. I noticed he started caring more about his appearance, using hair products, skincare, and cologne. Things he never used to bother with. He was buying expensive clothes, and I found it suspicious since he didn't used to care much about his looks. James started using his phone secretly, even taking it with him to the bathroom and shower. He used to leave it around the house, and I often nearly sat on it. I wondered why he had changed so suddenly. His new behavior made me more suspicious, especially when he came home late. I wondered if he was cheating, but I had no real proof, just a nagging suspicion. Despite how distant our relationship had become, I wanted to believe in him, and the idea of my suspicions being true was terrifying. I tried to improve our relationship by talking more and suggesting outings, but he always brushed me off. Our marriage had felt like a sham for years, and his cold treatment made me feel very lonely. One night, I couldn't hold back any longer and asked him directly, "Hey, are you cheating on me?" James looked at me but didn't say anything. I pressed him, "Say something. Are you cheating or not?" After a moment of silence, he stood up from the couch and walked over to where I was sitting at the table. James lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry, Kate. I want a divorce." I was shocked by his unexpected words. Without acknowledging my stunned silence, he continued, "I've fallen in love with another woman and want to start a new life with her." I was hurt and angry. How could he be so selfish? After 7 years together, I never imagined he'd make such a statement. All my efforts to fix our relationship seemed pointless now. Was the man I loved really this selfish and cruel? When we first met, I thought he was wonderful. I couldn't find words to respond. Then James added something that made me question everything. "She's pregnant with my child. I want to be with her for our child's future." I felt dizzy, like I might collapse. Everything seemed to fade away. We had tried for years to have a child, even seeking infertility treatments, but had no success. James had fertility issues, and we both struggled with the pain of not having a child. Now he was having a child with another woman, which seemed to be a major reason for his decision to divorce. He said he wanted to show his mother, who had been seriously ill for 2 years, her grandchild as soon as possible. I understood his desire to give her that joy, but having a child with another woman instead of his wife was awful. I had wanted a child too and had gone through many treatments. I thought we were sharing the pain of not having children. I yelled at him in my anger, but James only looked down and apologized, waiting for me to calm down. I was furious and upset. "What kind of woman is she?" I demanded. "Just because she's having your baby doesn't mean I'm ready to accept a divorce." I asked James to tell me more about the woman he's cheating with, but he said he wanted to respect her privacy. I was furious. I had a right to know. Despite my questions, James refused to give me any details except that she's 2 years younger than me and works at his company. I kept refusing to agree to the divorce, not wanting to give in to his demands. James continued to plead with me, bowing his head and saying things like, "I don't have feelings for you anymore. What's the point in staying married?" He even told me that my mother-in-law knew about the situation and was okay with it, which upset me because I thought we had a decent relationship. James revealed more shocking details. He had already given the other woman an engagement ring and planned to move in with her soon. I was stunned and felt like I might pass out. It was clear James was serious about being with his mistress, but I still refused to agree to the divorce. After almost a month of back and forth, James lost his patience and begged on his knees, saying, "I can't take this anymore. Please accept the divorce. Our relationship has been broken for a while now." Finally, I agreed to the divorce but insisted on alimony and my fair share of our assets. I asked for $50,000 in alimony, which was more than usual, but I felt it was fair given how I had managed our home for 7 years. James agreed, and we also decided that I would get half of the balance in our joint account, and he would cover my moving costs. I signed the divorce papers James prepared, and the next day, I submitted them to the city hall. The divorce was finalized, and James quickly married the other woman. I was surprised by how fast he moved, especially since I hadn't even finished packing up our old apartment. When I went to the apartment to finish packing, James was there too. I started tidying up without saying much. James was surprised that I wasn't crying or resisting. He probably thought I still loved him since I had been reluctant to divorce him quickly. But the truth was, I was more stubborn and wanted to handle things my way. James said, "You'll have a harder time after the divorce than me. I'm moving on and remarrying while you'll be on your own." I almost laughed at his arrogance. Between a housewife like me and a corporate hotshot like you, maybe you think I'll struggle. But it looks like the woman you're cheating with isn't as great as you think. I asked James, "How do you know her name?" He thought I was just stubborn about the divorce, but I had actually hired a private investigator to look into her. James's face went white when I told him this. Over the past few weeks, I found out a lot about his mistress, Emma. She's 27 years old, divorced twice, and lives with her parents. Emma has a reputation for being with many men. She has a child from her first marriage, but she's not allowed to see her because of her poor influence. The investigator also saw Emma going into motels with other men. I had photos to prove it. When I showed James all this information and the pictures, he was shocked. He couldn't believe Emma was like that. He was deeply in love with her and thought they were planning a happy future together. James didn't want to believe it, insisting that the photos were fake. I told him, "You can believe what you want, but Emma is still seeing other men. Maybe the child she's having isn't even yours. If she chose you because you're the one with money, consider it an honor." I delivered that final blow and left the apartment with my things. Later, James emailed me saying he wanted to get back together. But as I suspected, the child Emma had wasn't his. When James confronted her, she said she didn't know whose child it was until it was born. Legally, though, James had to raise the child as his own since he was married to Emma. It turned out that Emma was using him for money. James even paid me $80,000 in alimony, which also covered Emma's share. James was furious and confronted Emma. She just said, "You seemed happy to serve me," and then left the child behind and disappeared. James called me, begging for a second chance, saying he was sorry, and that I was right about everything. I told him he had betrayed me, and there was no way I would come back. I hung up the phone. Later, I heard from someone we both know that James gave the child Emma left behind to her parents, asking them to take responsibility. Emma's parents were not happy and told James to raise the child himself, but he refused, saying he had no obligation to raise a child that wasn't his. He even provided a DNA test to prove the child wasn't his and revoked his acknowledgement of the child. Emma's parents didn't know the child wasn't James's. When they found Emma, they forced her to come back home and raise the child while keeping a close watch on her to prevent her from seeing other men. Despite losing all his savings to pay me $80,000 in alimony, which also included Emma's share, James has tried to get the money back from Emma, but she's refused, saying she can't repay what she doesn't have. As a result, James is now broke, divorced, and struggling at work. He's been moved to a low-level job in a rural area with no chance of promotion and is living a lonely life. On the other hand, I moved back to my parents' house and helped with their farm. After a few years, I fell in love with and married a local fisherman. We don't have children, but I'm very happy with him, and he's always kind to me.